Welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln, where we take a look around the Lincoln, Nebraska area and introduce you to business owners and influential people in the city. We are brought to you by Perch Merch. Perch Merch is a locally owned, custom screen printing and embroidery apparel shop that also specializes in vehicle wraps, decals, and all sorts of promotional products. If your business, school, or team is looking to expand your brand, head to perch-merch.com or call us at 402-217-5212.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln. I am your host, Chris Beecham, joined by my co-host, Henry Schmidt.
Hello, Chris.
And producer guy, Joe Cruz.
Hello, everyone.
So today in the Perch Merch studio, we have Linus Hagedorn of the, I want to say Cornhusker State Games, but that's not right. It's the Nebraska Sports Council.
Correct.
Because you guys do a lot more, as we've just learned before, than the Cornhusker State Games. Okay, so just explain what.
You bet.
Yeah, go.
Nebraska Sports Council, that is our 501c not-profit status, right? We are the nonprofit organization that puts on lots of events. We have a mission of health and wellness through quality activities and competitions for all ages and all abilities. Cornhusker State Games that you mentioned, that's what we're most commonly known for. Cornhusker State Games is simply a amateur sports festival with 75 different events that we put on in the third week of July, all over the state. It's for all Nebraskans. Honestly, we get people from the surrounding states as well that participate, but that is still our mothership. That's still our core program that we do, but we do, as you mentioned, we do all kinds of other stuff throughout the year.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the list right now. You have the Nebraska Showdown, Nebraska Diamond
Fest.
Cornhusker State Games.
Is that when they design wedding rings at Diamond Fest?
You grab your pickaxe and
I was going to say it's more of
Go to the mines.
thing.
Go bust some coal.
Golf for Gold Golf Scramble, Lincoln Corporate Games, Omaha Corporate Games, Pumpkin Run, Nebraska Net Fest. Do you want to guess what that is?
Fishing.
Heartland Havoc. That sounds like an MMA event.
It's wrestling.
Is it? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yep.
And this is going to be like part of a series, so we're going to have other people on, and each one's all your interns and fun people, and
You bet.
And they're going to tell us more about each one as they come up. But how old is Nebraska Sports Council?
So we were incorporated in 1985. We just celebrated 40 years. This past year was the 40th annual Cornhusker State Games. And we were founded simply back in the day. There used to be a state-appointed athletic director by the governor. Back then it was Jerry McGinn. And in 1985, he went to athletic directors conference and came back from that and basically told the governor, we're going to do Cornhusker State Games. And from there, he went out and found some of his fellow founders, Dr. Richard Hammer, who was on the swimming side, O.W. Bill Smith. A lot of people recognize that name because the facility out in Hastings, the softball facility out in Hastings is named after him. So he was softball. There was quite a few. Dr. Joanne Owens Nosler, she was anything from running to track and field to just people in general. They all got together in the basement of the governor's mansion, and Cornhusker State Games was born.
Got it.
Yeah. Year one wasn't the greatest.
that's what I was going to ask is how many events did they have year one?
Yeah, year one, it was like 14 events and not the greatest participation numbers. Year two, they hired Tom Ash, who is my mentor, Scott Ash's dad.
I knew there was a reason he had the job that he did. This makes more sense.
Yeah, me too. For that matter, too. Me too. That's why I have a job. But Tom Ash is who I credit for building the Cornhusker State Games that we try not to ruin today. He's the one that built it from ground up. Year two, I couldn't tell you how many events there were. But when I started in 1994, I think that was my very first Cornhusker State Games, we had right around 55 sports and 1,000 participants.
Wow.
And what is it now?
And now we are very comfortably at 75-ish events and right around 10,000 people.
Because it's a massive undertaking. we joked, but I literally thought you didn't do anything else the rest of the year, and you just worked on Cornhusker State Games.
A lot of people, and that's why we're grateful for you guys having us today, by the way, is so that we can keep on educating everybody that it's more than just the Cornhusker State Games, and collectively, like all of our programs, participation-wise, we're well over 40,000 people that we serve towards our mission throughout the year. Cornhusker State Games you were kind of asking about the fests or talking about the fests that we do out in Kearney now, but just kind of necessity, we had to pull some of the youth team sports out of the Cornhusker State Games and move them to their season and a more central location. So let's use Diamond Fest as the example. It is actually a youth fast pitch softball tournament, and it was born from
softball diamond.
Now
I get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we were way off.
Me being the nonprofit, though, I'll take all the diamonds that you want to carve me up. But when you get to the third week in July, a lot of those youth team sports now are like, we are done. We don't want another. After the 4th of July, they don't want another tournament to have to worry about the coaches, the parents.
The travel, yeah.
The travel, a lot of youth team sports is all about travel these days, and it's on even if it's not major club level, but a lot of it's on the club level. And we got tired of that battle, so we juked and jived, and we talked to Kearney, and Kearney said, yeah, we'll host a fast pitch softball tournament for you in May, more in their season. So now we end up being on the early side of all these teams and coaches and players' radar, being one of the first tournaments that they come to. And we do it in Kearney, and that has helped a ton because now all these rural town teams have something that they can participate
that wouldn't
in.
travel to Lincoln, but now they can travel
and
to
now
Kearney.
they come to Kearney, and it's a little bit closer for them, and it's worked out really well. And then same thing with NetFest. NetFest is a youth volleyball tournament.
You were wrong on that
we put on. But you're not off a lot because our president, Dave Manerick, he strategically named these Diamond Fest and NetFest. So guess what we can add to Diamond Fest? Baseball.
Oh, man.
Well, now that that's on the Net Fest side, but diamond carving might come in. But, it's slow pitch men's softball, which is still really popular in the Cornhusker State Games. But we'll add baseball maybe someday, and then same thing on Net Fest. We can add fishing.
You can go out to McConaughey.
Could add soccer.
Exactly.
Basketball.
But
basketball
tennis,
has a net.
Basketball, a good one.
Yeah. all sorts of sports have nets.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that one of your guests have talked about this, but pickleball is on fire right now, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Pickleball is, so guess what the second thing was? We added a Net Fest, pickleball. And just like that, we had over 100 pickleball participants that now participate in NetFest.
Holy smoke! It brought 100 pickleball players
in Kearney.
Wow!
Yeah. And it's kind of a mini version. We want to keep it all on the same weekend. It's a mini version of what we do with the Cornhusker State Games. Cornhusker State Games is actually over 2 weekends. We do 75 events basically in 10 days. Whereas like NetFest, we do in October. We do 1 weekend. We do youth volleyball and adult pickleball at the same time.
They go together, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of it's that festival spirit of come one, come all, but it's again geared towards our grassroots of town teams and give the rural opportunity and big tournament feel without the stress of.
Are you personally at all these things?
Not so much anymore. Again, when you get to meet, we'll introduce you to the ops team at the Nebraska Sports Council. That's the youth of our staff. It's our director of events and our director of operation. And then seasonally, we bring in 6 to 8 interns. I think we have 6 interns on board this year. But when we get closer to events, the Nebraska Showdown, you mentioned, that's our first event that comes up in April. And that is one of our few events that's a little bit off mission because it's geared towards the club teams that are trying to qualify for a national event. But we partnered with Maggie over at VCN and Alyssa over at Nebraska Juniors, and we found this. We didn't find it. It was a tournament that it was a qualifier that somebody else was putting on. And it was somebody that was coming in from out of state, Florida, and they were putting on this tournament, and they were taking all the money and going back to Florida. We caught wind of that, and with Maggie and Alyssa's help, we secured the rights to said tournament, and we renamed it, and we call it the Showdown now. And now that money stays in town, and we split it between 3 nonprofits: us, VCN, and Nebraska Juniors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good win for you.
It's actually, and it's a really good way to show the interns. It's our first event of the year, so it's a really good one for us to be able to, do a little bit of event management, a lot of customer service, set up, tear down. Again, not me, them. They do all the work.
You're not taking any
You put
credit.
in your time, though.
I'm not putting my time. Yeah. Honestly, we talked about Scott Ash. He is our vice president of operations, and he's doing a really good job to make sure that the director of operations and her team are taking full ownership of the events, whereas myself and Dave Manerick and Scott Ash, we are the ones that are out there making sure that the doors stay open by fundraising. And
How many people do you guys have total?
Total, we are, we're 5 full-time staff.
Okay.
And then 6 interns seasonally.
And then the rest, like for Nebraska Cornhusker State Games, is all volunteers.
Yes. Yeah.
How many volunteers? Because I assume, let's go over
gotta
this
be
10
hundreds.
days. Are you there? Or do you go out of town for those 2 weeks? Or
I am out of town. I go to the events that we don't do in Lincoln. So if you check out the Cornhusker State Games stat sheet, we do stuff in North Platte, Grand Island.
it's just
Columbus,
spread everywhere.
Fremont. It is, which is a good thing. If there's anything that we learned 4 or 5 years ago, is we don't have to do everything in the Lincoln and Omaha areas. Kearney has great facilities. Grand Island has great facilities. We moved our cycle tour out to North Platte, which is a great place for a non-competitive bike race. It's quiet highways and very supportive county sheriffs and Department of Roads, and minimal paperwork, which is tough to do on this end of the state. Grand Island, we're moving all of our shooting sports to Grand Island because they have a shooting facility there called the Heartland Shoot Park, and it's got everything you need for pretty much all of the disciplines that we do. So I think we're moving 12 disciplines of shooting to Grand Island, and we'll do it all in one spot in basically 2 weekends.
And so where are you?
I'm at
all of them.
I will hit as many of them as I can.
And that's kind of the theory behind everybody. And you just hope that. And how many volunteers are we talking?
Yeah, we're talking a lot of volunteers. So back to Scott, he'll stick around and help with the operations. And Ashley Kramer, who is our director of operations, Jada Wyan is our director of events, and Elena Burke is our director of events. Those guys handle everything logistic for all the sports, but they kind of stay closer to the office where they can put out fires.
Yeah, because you guys make it look like, it runs like clockwork, but I assume there is complete chaos behind the scenes.
There is, but
because you can't have something that big.
You got it. Yeah. So let's use the Cornhusker State Games. Each one of those 75 events that we do has a volunteer sport director, and those sport directors are the ones that really are the driving force behind day of putting the event on. And then each one of those sport directors goes out and recruits the volunteers that are needed to run the event. So to answer your question, you were asking me how many volunteers we have. It is over 2,000. I mean, It's closer to 2,500. Yeah. And it's a little bit of everything, right? It's everything you need to put the sport on, but it's more behind the scenes is we try to provide medical support for every event we can. We have tier levels of events that should be up on the medical radar, so those teams for sure, or those sports we for sure provide medical coverage for. So big shout out to the Reserve Medical Corps. They are a good partner of ours, and they are the ones that Medical Reserve Corps. I think I said that backwards. Yeah, Medical Reserve Corps. They are the backbone of our medical and safety support.
Yeah, very important to have them with you.
Yeah, exactly.
While we're on the state games, I'm reading through the list of events, and some of these I didn't even know. Okay, we have arm wrestling, we have axe throwing, we have BMX, freestyle, and racing. There's bocce ball in here. We have under golf, there's a bunch of different ones, but also miniature golf is included. There's pocket billiards. Pocket billiards.
Joe's just talking about the sports he likes to play.
Under shooting. There's even BB guns. There's wiffle ball and sports skydiving.
Oh, yeah. Sports skydiving.
I like wiffle ball. We should start a wiffle ball.
Should we have a wiffle ball team?
Yeah, I used to tell like my taxi driver in Vegas that I was part of a professional wiffle ball team. Every time I was up there,
well, now
we should do it.
Now you won't be lying.
Who would sponsor us?
Perch merch.
Oh,
Let's go. That's convenient.
But that is a fun list of events.
How many do you add each year? Or
Do you ever remove any?
Yeah. Oh wait, I can speak on this. I know one that was removed. I don't see dodgeball on here anymore.
Oh yeah.
We competed in dodgeball about 3 or 4 years, but I don't know what it is. When you get grown men playing childish games, it always ends up with a fight in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That hit you. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. No, it didn't.
Yeah. Dodgeball was, we consider that one of our fad sports, but when it was hot, oh my goodness, it was crazy. And just like you were talking about, first of all, we couldn't find a facility big enough to hold all the dodgeball teams that came because of the movie.
Dodgeball.
Yeah. Dodgeball.
It's a great movie.
I can't tell you how many team names came in as the Purple Dragons.
The Cobras.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whatever it was, but we had to be like, okay, well, you're team 1, you're team 2.
The Cobras won. Cobras
Do you want to know what
2.
our team name was?
You're probably the average Joe's based on your first name, Joe.
We were the Rainbow Cowboys. And
boy.
each one of we had matching uniforms, but each one of us had a different color.
I'm gonna go back and look for the photos now. But
There's
He'll
some
probably
good ones.
post them. I'm sure he's got them.
Yeah.
So you had to cut the dodgeball.
we had to cut dodgeball. We actually do have a process, believe it or not. You can't just come and be like, I want to add basket weaving. You can't do that. We have a sport application that you have to fill out. You have to be solid. You have to have a governing body. It's not a requirement, but it's good to have a national governing body institute behind your sport that helps with the rules and regulations, right? As you know, being a nonprofit, we rely heavily on corporate sponsorships. So if you submit a application, it's always good to have the financial backing come with you. Some sports just make sense just to add because the participation numbers are there. Again,
what would be the most recent 3 sports you guys have added?
Let's see. I know wiffle ball right off the bat was one that we added last year or maybe the year before, but wiffle ball is fun and it's super cool because
It sounds fun.
if you guys haven't noticed
Do you
yet,
have kickball?
we haven't done that yet.
Okay, let's work on that.
Do you have a corporate sponsorship?
Perch merch, let's go.
Walked right into that one.
If you haven't been to the Optimus baseball facility on Highway 77 out kind of towards the Optimus, out there, they redid some fields out there. Well, they had enough space to build 2 full-size wiffle ball fields, complete with turf and LED lighting, and it's cool.
In Lincoln?
So they have leagues already here?
I think they do have leagues.
Well, they have a governing body, apparently.
Yep.
We could have a tournament for your birthday.
Let's
There you
go.
Well, again, this is where the ops team comes in because they work with all these people. But we went out for the facility tour, and it's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. And it was born. I forget. I'm gonna apologize because I forget his name, but it was born in his backyard. And at his house, he has a legit wiffle ball field in his backyard that his kids, and their friends played wiffle ball, and that turned into we got enough space out here. Let's put in some wiffle ball fields. So. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
I'm trying to think what our other latest ones were.
I would assume that the
Pickleball's gotta be-
Pickleball's
a new
2 or
one.
3 years, probably.
Yeah, pickleball's been.
That's got to be like the fastest growing
I will tell
sport
you,
you guys have ever seen, right?
kind of, sort of. I mean, and we've seen it since 2015. So there is a State Games of America event that
I usually call that the United States Games. Is
Okay. There's roughly 34 state games programs across the country. And what the State Games of America is if you medal in your hometown or your home state games event, then you qualify to go participate in the State Games of America against, the other medal winners from across the country.
Where's that at?
It's every 2 years, and the next one is going to be in
Not here.
Not here. It's going to be in Pennsylvania. I can't remember exactly where or when.
Just
all on the website.
just win the event and you can go.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Win the wiffle ball. So how did you get involved? What's your story?
Yeah, so my story is born and raised North Platte. I went to school, show my age a little bit. I went to school at Kearney State College with Scott Ash. So I owe my existence to Scott Ash and Tom Ash.
They're all coming together now.
But here's how I got bit by the nonprofit bug in the Cornhusker State Games mission. I volunteered to take our statewide torch run from North Platte to Grand Island. And we did a torch run just like you would see on the Olympics, a relay of runners, and we did it all the way across the state. It was a 4-week run. We'd start at the Wyoming border and make our way back to Lincoln. And Scott Ash was actually directing that and needed volunteers. And I said, yeah, buddy, I'll help you. And the rest is history. I rode in a van for 5 miles an hour for 3 days, going from city to city.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. When you first were telling the story, I thought you were a runner. You kind of led me to believe that you were.
I pictured you holding the torch as well.
No. So that is probably that same or similar to the torch that we did for the Beer House Beer Games. Is what we would go across the state with, a 2.5 pound torch replica. We couldn't. It was the spirit of the torch. We couldn't do an official spirit of the flame, because if you dropped the torch and caught somebody's wheat field on fire,
so you couldn't. It wasn't really lit.
It wasn't really lit because if you catch somebody's field,
there's a little bit of liability.
There's some liability there.
I guess I understand.
But to your
especially
point,
with how fast you were running.
Oh yeah, I was blazing. We did do our share of running though, and that's kind of how we all started. Dave Manerick was before us, and he started out in the torch run. Scott Ash kind of helped him along, picked, and then took it over, and then along came Linus, and away we go.
And you said you got in at 95?
94.
Oh, 94.
Yep.
How old would you have been?
What year did you graduate high school?
I was 12.
You look, young and
appreciate
fit.
that,
So
Joe. I
was
that.
like, these numbers aren't adding up to me. Like you must have been 23, 25?
Yeah, exactly. I think I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I started. Yeah, and again, back to the mission. We love what we do. We work hard and we play hard. And that's been our staff mantra for a really long time.
I am aware.
Yeah, you know about as well as anybody.
It's a fun time.
But and we try to incorporate that, and we carry that over to our interns these days.
Well, I can only imagine that place is. I mean, it's a lot of work when the events are there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's a lot of work otherwise, but it's got to be just a lot of fun and rewarding.
It's super rewarding. It is, and I'm just going to use the pumpkin run as an example. The pumpkin run is something that we've only been doing for roughly 20 years. It used to be an LPS event, and it kind of got too big for them, and it got too big for Pioneers Park. And it was a situation where that they were going to have to do something different, or it was going to go away. And we volunteered for many, many years for that, whether it was course monitors or lead bikes or anyway. We took over the pumpkin run and created what we have today. We got 2 heats that we run right after one, or we got 2 sessions with 6 heats in each session. So 12 heats throughout the day. But we're up to over 4,000 runners, elementary-aged runners in that thing now. And my point is when you're out there and you're putting on an event like this, and this is one that why we do what we do is a kid gets out there and runs a mile and hates it and thinks they can't do it. And then all of a sudden they do it and realizes that wasn't that bad. And then they're asking mom and dad to do it again, the next day, or do 2 miles instead. That's the example.
It comes back to your mission.
Yeah, it comes back to our mission, and that's just a small example. And then the Cornhusker State Games now take that time 75 different events, and there's a story in every one of the events that we do, and it's a big reason of why we do what we do.
So if somebody wants to donate or be a volunteer, what do they have to do? Where do they go?
The best thing to do is to go to nebraskasportscouncil.com. All of our events are listed up there. Our contact information is up there. But if an event strikes you of something that you'd really like to be involved in, the best thing to do is just shoot us an email at the info@nebraskasportscouncil.com. Search us out on social media. Those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us. If it's sponsorships directly, we got lots of options there.
So in 30 years of doing the games, what's your favorite moment?
Boy, that's a tough one. I have a lot of them. Some of my favorites are that come out of our track and field event. We have a really good size track and field event, and it starts with 5-year-olds, and it goes all the way up to 90-some-year-olds. And some of my favorite pictures that come out of there, some of our favorite athletes of the year, are the ones that, again, have thought they couldn't do it, and then they come to the Cornhusker State Games and they do it. Or somebody told them that they couldn't do it, and they said, "I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to train, and I'm going to do the Cornhusker State Games," and then they do it, and then it's a whole nother world.
You do see a lot of those stories.
Yeah. We see a lot of the usual stories you would see where somebody that's good at their sport does good at their sport, and they do it for a long time, or they do multiple events in one. In 2 weekends. And that's a prime example of one of our most recent athletes of the year. He did everything from triathlon to, adult volleyball to our 5K road race, and he basically tried to do as many events as he could in a 2-weekend period, and he did them well.
That reminds me, I think it was for the 25th year that Dave.
Yeah, Dave
is that,
Setko. Yeah. Those are good memories too. Yeah.
That was fun. He's like, because I remember his quote. He's like, "I don't want to just compete. I want to win each competition."
Yeah.
He almost joined the dodgeball team.
Did he really? There's some fun stories out of there. He'd be a podcast just himself.
He would.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he can be part of the series.
There you go.
Well, there we go. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, all right. Last little segment in our great city of Lincoln. What are the things you like to do for fun? What do you like to do for your spare time?
Well, I like to do lots of things, and they usually involve the beer house.
Oh, yes.
Or a bush light. But some of my favorite things to do are, we spend a lot of time in gyms. So I still have kids that are heavy in sports. So some of our favorite things to do are revolve around whatever basketball gym or whatever field that we're at. So a lot of that time takes us to restaurants or establishments, to kill time. And boy, you put me on the spot. Like right now, I can't think of like what we would do outside of sports. But for the most of the time, it's, if we're not doing sports, it's off to somewhere. It's lake activities is some of our favorite things to do. Locally, we go to Sun Valley Lanes and we go bowling.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's one of our favorite family things. Yeah.
You did bring up the beer house, so I do have to mention that was one of my favorite events last year, was the Beer Olympics that I got to host. And they sponsored the 40 Torches beer. So I did know it was 40 years of the Cornhusker Council, Nebraska Sporty Council.
Sporty.
Sports Council.
Sportish.
This is my first podcast, guys.
Joe must have come back from the Beer Olympics over lunch or something.
I must have. Well, yeah, that was a great event. So, yeah, thanks for being a part of that.
Yeah, we're grateful. Cody and Kincaidor, they're just a small example of we have over 70 different corporate sponsors that, we're grateful for their support. We're one of the few nonprofits that we don't get any government funding. We rely heavily on corporate sponsorships, grants, and private donations.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. In the first part of this series, we got to learn about Linus.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
All right,
Linus.
Thank you.
See you guys.